I just want to apologize ahead of the second half of this video, of it being 2 videos long. I like to over-explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. So my videos tend to be a little bit longer than I anticipated. But we're going to continue this recipe right now. So the next recipe we're going to make is sourdough cinnamon rolls. So in the stand mixer, I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. We're going to add 1 egg and 100 grams of Fed Happy Bubbly sourdough starter. I have 2/3 cup of milk and 2 tablespoons of butter, melted and cool. We're going to pour that in slowly as it's mixing. And in this bowl, I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix that in really well. Add that in slowly. Right now we need to scrape down the bowl. It says a sticky dough will form. Then we have to turn it off. And we need to cover it for 30 minutes. All right, 30 minutes is up. I'm going to have to switch it to the dough hook, but I want to get all of this goodness off of here. We need to do it for 6 to 8 minutes, and number 2 or number 3 on the stand mixer. How crazy was that, family? That actually came out better than I thought it would. So we're gonna use this bowl that we had the flour in for our rising stretch and folds. It says we need to butter this bowl. That is good. I can see now I should have doubled this recipe, but we're learning as we go. All right, let's dump this into our buttered bowl. You need to cover it with plastic wrap. So transfer the dough to a medium-sized bowl. Coat it in butter. Cover with plastic wrap, and we're going to let it rise overnight. That's 8 to 12 hours. Stretch and fold the dough options about 30 minutes to an hour into its bulk rise. Stretch and fold the dough. Grab a portion. We did this the other night when we made the double chocolate espresso bread. We're going to grab it, fold it over, turn it a quarter turn, do the same, turn it a quarter turn, do the same, till we're all around it and did a total of 4. Continue this technique until you come full circle around the bowl, 4 folds total. And then we let it sit here overnight. So within the first 30 minutes to an hour, we'll stretch and fold this, then we're done tonight. So we just need to do 1 set of stretch and folds. Just gonna wet my hands just a bit in some water I have right over here on this side. I'm gonna take the dough and stretch and fold. Turn it a quarter turn, pull the dough, turn it a quarter turn, pull the dough. It's very pretty dough, I can tell you that right now. That is it. I will see you tomorrow morning when we're ready to make cinnamon rolls. So it's been 12 hours since we made the dough for the cinnamon rolls. Been sitting on the counter overnight. Now we need to go ahead and roll it out and get it ready to do its second rise so we can bake them. So I have the large cutting board. I'm just going to put some olive oil on here. We'll start with that. In this bowl I have 1/2 cup of sugar, 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of flour. That is our cinnamon sugar mixture. Mix that in really well. And I have 2 tablespoons of butter with a basting brush to paint that on our dough. This is our beautiful dough. Stretch the dough gently into a rough triangle, and then we have to let it rest for 10 minutes. So we're just stretching it by hand. All right, now we need to let it sit here for 10 minutes. So I took it off of the cutting board and just put it on a floured surface on the countertop here because my board is not big enough. So we're going to lightly flour the top and our rolling pin. We need to roll it 16 by 12 inches. It's still sticky. It's very soft. All right, that looks good. And she gives you two variations of butter. I went ahead and did the melting butter. So we just want to paint that on here using the whole 2 tablespoons. And then our cinnamon sugar mixture. And she says use it all. Now we need to roll it up. Her recipe calls for a springform pan. I'm just using a square 9x9 casserole dish. Let's put a little bit of oil in here. Now we need to cut it. I think it says 8 rolls, but I don't want mine that big, so I'm actually going to cut mine into 12. And we're going to put them in our pans. But it doesn't say to cover it. So we're not going to cover it. So we're going to leave it here for between 1 to 2 hours until they puff, and then we're ready to bake. So it's been sitting here for about an hour and a half. They're starting to get puffy and touching each other. I have the oven preheating on 350 degrees, and we're going to bake this between 30 and 35 minutes. Her instruction says to check it after 30 minutes. And then we need to let it cool for 15 minutes before we add our glaze on top. And she actually has a cream cheese, powdered sugar glaze. I didn't take cream cheese out of the freezer, so we're not doing that. We're actually just going to do our normal powdered sugar and milk glaze. Now we're going to put it in the oven and bake it for 30 to 35 minutes. So I cooked the cinnamon rolls for 30 minutes, and then I extended it for an additional 10 minutes, and it still wasn't done to me. It was still a little doughy on the top. So then I extended it an additional 10 minutes. So mine's been cooking for 50 minutes. Just keep an eye on them after 30 minutes. See if you need to extend that time. But they're out of the oven. I've had them sitting on this counter for about 15 minutes. Come in closer, I want to show you something. Pan is still a little warm, but look at that. And it smells so delicious. So in this bowl, I have about a half a cup of powdered sugar, and I'm gonna put about a quarter cup of milk. and a teaspoon of vanilla. Now we're just going to spoon this right on top of these cinnamon rolls. I'm going to let this sit in this pan for about 30 minutes just so that glaze can solidify and get a little hard on that cinnamon rolls, and then we can dive into it. So I will see you in 30 minutes. But it's getting closer for us to taste these delicious sourdough soft cinnamon rolls. Okay, family, it is time. It has rested for 30 minutes. But what is your favorite part? Or is it the corners, the side ones, or the one in the middle? Mine are the ones in the middle. Oh, it smells so good. Oop, I'm losing some rings. Nope, nope, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine. I'm taking you. I am super excited. Now when we make our yeast cinnamon rolls, you know, the one that the grandkids love, we use brown sugar instead of regular cane sugar. And yeah, I probably could have done that with this, but we went by this recipe, and of course, we will tweak it to fit our needs in the future. You can taste the sourdough bread in there. It has a little bit of tang to it. That is really, really good. I wonder if the grandkids will like this better versus the yeast ones, but I think they're really good. Yesterday morning we fed our sourdough starter. Then last night, when it was nice and bubbly and all the good things, we made the dough. We let the dough rest on the countertop for 12 hours. This morning we got up, we shaped it, put the butter and the sugar and the cinnamon mixture on the center, rolled them up, cut them into 12s. Her recipe says 8. I like mine a little bit smaller, so we did 12. We put them in this pan and let it sit for anywhere between an hour and 2 hours. Ours sat for 1.5 hours. And then we baked it. Her recipe says 30 to 35 minutes in a 350-degree oven. We actually did it for 50 minutes in the 350-degree oven. Let it sit on the counter for 30 minutes. We made a powdered sugar, milk, vanilla icing to go on the top. Let that sit for 30 minutes and we ate. So if you're gonna make the soft sourdough cinnamon rolls, you need to allow 25 hours from the time you want to eat it until you feed the starter to get this all processed and ready for cooking and eating. So just remember, sourdough breads takes time and planning, but it can be done as long as you know how long. So I would suggest for the cinnamon rolls, allow yourself 25 hours from feeding your starter until you're ready to eat the cinnamon rolls. But family, it's good. I can't wait to show you the next recipe. It's gonna be just as delicious. So the next recipe we're gonna make can either be an active sourdough starter, one that you fed and it's all bubbly and soft, or it could be a discard. We're using it as a discard recipe. So we're gonna make a homemade sourdough cinnamon toast crunch cereal. So let me bring you in a little closer and show you what we got going on. This is also from Simplicity and Starter. I'll leave a link in the description box below. She has both measurements and weights on all of her ingredients. We are going by weight. So this recipe is supposed to be done in a food processor. I don't have a large food processor. You know how small my my food processor is. So we're going to actually be using the KitchenAid stand mixer. This is a recipe from Simplicity and Starter. So in the mixing bowl, I have 220 grams of flour, 50 grams of sugar, 5 grams of cinnamon, and 4 grams of salt. In this bowl, we have 120 grams of sourdough discard. And I went ahead and grated 1 stick or 1/2 cup of butter just with the cheese grater. We need to mix these two together, add the sourdough starter and the vanilla. We need 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then mix everything and then add water as needed. Let's go over to the stand mixer. And we're just going to add water as needed. All right, I think we are there. Forgot to add the vanilla. Going back to the mixer to add the vanilla. I'll be right back. Okay, so I added the vanilla real quick. All right, so we need to lay the dough on a lightly floured surface. I'm just going to knead it a bit to make sure that vanilla is mixed in there. If I would have added it before the first tablespoon of water, it would have been better, but I did forget. But it's okay, we got this. Okay, that looks good. We're supposed to cut it in half. All right, the oven is preheating on 350 degrees. All right, so with half the dough, we need to roll this out, and all she says is to an 1/8 of an inch thick. The thinner the dough, the crunchier the cereal. It's very pretty. You know what would be handy? Those long rolling pins that have the gauges on the edge to let you know you're at an 1/8 or a 1/4 inch. That's what we need. Not necessary. That's just a want item. That feels about right. So I moved it onto some parchment paper on the large baking sheet. And we need to cut this into little squares to resemble little cookies for the cereal. But I am going to square off the sides just so they'll be more uniform. And then we're going to cut them into maybe a 1/2 inch square. Take off any of them that look irregular. Put all that little remnants back in here. And repeat the process until all the dough is on that baking sheet. I'll bring you right back when we're ready to move on to the next step, which seems to be very easy. So I'll see you in a few minutes, family. So I have what I can fit on this large tray. This is what we have left over. We will take care of that later. So we have a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and it's been sitting here cooling the whole time we were cutting these squares. So we're just going to paint some butter on all of the squares. Make sure they're all on a single layer. They're not doubling up. They're not bumping into each other. Perfect. And in this bowl, I have a 1/2 cup of sugar and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon I mixed together. We're just going to sprinkle that right on top. Says a generous sprinkle. All right, that looks good. So we need to bake this for about 15 to 20 minutes in the oven. And in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and get this one ready to go in the oven. So the large pan of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch came out of the oven. The second pan is in the oven now. But family, they're so cute. Come here. Look at that. They're so cute. And can you hear that? They're crunchy. Let's give one a try. They are delicious. Oh my goodness. The recipe said cook them 15 to 20 minutes. I put them in the oven and cooked them for 15 minutes. They were still a little doughy, so then I extended it for another 10 minutes. So mine actually took 25 minutes. But family, that is so cool. Now I need to let these cool off completely and get them into a container. We need to try it with some milk, like real cereal. That would be awesome. So now all the cinnamon toast is in this jar. Why don't we test it out and try out a bowl of cereal? Some cereal and some milk. You got to remember there's no additives to this cereal. It's not going to hold its crunch in the milk. But I'm sure it's going to be good. Family, that is delicious. It tastes like the real thing that you buy in the store. Would I make this again? Yes, definitely. These are ingredients we know. We have the sourdough starter that we created together. Flour and water, real butter, real sugar, real cinnamon. Everything in here is real ingredients. No preservatives, no additives, no fillers, nothing. This is a cereal that you can feel comfortable letting your children and your grandchildren to eat and not feel guilty. I am not a big cereal person, but I will definitely keep this on hand. This was so simple. Now this is a mason jar that I got from a friend of mine. She had some old mason jars. You can't see it, but it says Atlas Strong Shoulder Mason. Love using glass to store my food in. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate this jar so much. But we will make this again. The recipe that I printed for the Cinnamon Toast Crunch that I got online from the website Simplicity and Starter. I'm going to write my notes on here on how I made it because I don't have a food processor, and how many tablespoons of water it took. I think it was 2.5 tablespoons. I'm going to actually double this recipe the next time so I can have more for a longer time. This is really good. Well, I hope these recipes inspire you to get into your kitchen and learn how to make your own sourdough starter and how to make things from sourdough discard. This was a sourdough discard. The crackers were a sourdough discard recipe, plus the 2 breads we made. We made cinnamon rolls and we made that double chocolate espresso bread. But there are many, many recipes out there. Hope you find a recipe that fits your family and get in your kitchen and make something sourdough. And if you don't make nothing else, make this cereal. So delicious. Absolutely delicious. Let me finish my breakfast. And right over here, you're going to see 2 videos. Go check those out. They're either going to inspire you to get into your kitchen or give you a chuckle. Either one is fine with me. Until next time, you have a blessed day. Bye, family.